Welcome friends to a Halo lore video, and in today's video we'll look at the Spartan III program. Oni was able to steal information from Halsey's program, and a man, Colonel James Ackerson, proposed to the Office of Naval Intelligence a way to make Spartans more affordable, cheaper perhaps you could also say, but there would be more overall from the candidates put into it. And there were also Spartan II trainers brought into this program to aid it. So with this mass production of super soldiers, they could target specific parts of the warfare before them to make best use of them. But they would be considered expendable. They would be taken from lost colony orphans who would volunteer for a way to fight back against the Covenant. It was an effort by Oni to blunt the incredible amount of destruction brought about by the war with the Covenant. The training was done on the world of Oinks at a place called Camp Karahi. This was hidden within the planet's dense jungle. Now, there are obviously aspects of the training mirrored from the Spartan II training program. Physical exercises, team-based exercises, and a similar effort also made in the education in terms of warfare, both how it's done and how it's done historically. The indoctrination side of things was done via military methods, military protocol, combat instruction, and it was driven into them that they had to achieve their objective at all costs. Because they were orphans who had been made that way by the Covenant, this was something very easy for them to buy into. The Spartan III augmentation process was dubbed Project Chrysanthemum. It was different to Halsey's efforts. It was done when the orphans were older rather than the 6-7 age, if I'm correct in my mind. For example, with Master Chief, it's done around the age of 12. Before the surgery took place, the children were given hormone and supplement treatment. This would build muscle mass and strength in the process. Also, to get into the techie sci-fi terms, the augmentation would lead to the introduction of a carbide ceramic ossification catalyst agent, a fibroid muscular protein complex drug, retina inversion stabilizers, and an improved colloidal neural disunification solution. The chemical and surgical parts of things also included implants and smaller adjustments to the physiology of the candidate. When Gamma Company came together, bigger changes were made, as the early companies had suffered great losses. Amongst these was a neural-altering, non-carcinogenic mutagen, Cycloid 4. The hope behind this change was to suppress the effects of systematic shock when sustaining life-threatening injuries, so they could keep going. It would give them a burst of aggression just before their death. There were also other counter-agents introduced at this point. This was to stabilise the mutagen's permanent effects within the candidate. These two cocktails were dubbed smoothers. And we referenced earlier making the Spartan III's cheaper. Well, one way this was done was the Mjolnir armour was not used. Instead they used SPI, semi-powered infiltration armour. The idea behind the armour was to give the Spartans stealth, subterfuge capabilities, rather than having them involved in direct conflict. So the outer plating has a camouflage system in it, but it did lack energy shielding. Now in terms of the Spartan III deployment, it was made to roll out small companies over time. But with each group launched, Ambrose secretly withdrew people from the program who he dubbed as being exceptional soldiers, and then would then deploy them in non-standard roles. So they would enter special warfare teams dubbed Strident, Noble and Anchor. This was done under a program called Headhunter, and it would be done to execute high-risk assassination missions, kind of a Black Ops feel to it. One company, the Delta, was never officially allowed to begin training due to the Oinks conflict and then the end of the war. Now the results of the program, how did they measure up? They were looked on as a success by Oni. Alpha Company, however, was lost during an operation dubbed Prometheus, and only 2 Beta Company Spartans survived torpedoes, so there is quite a high loss rate. But some personnel managed to survive through to the end of the war. But if you look at it in terms of what was put into it in terms of the money and the output, it was a loss. It ran at a net loss. But the company's net losses offered a sober assessment of the programme. The lowest casualty rate was amongst a group called Gamma Company. But even those that are members of that company have to rely on smoothers to stem the effects of the mutagenic alteration that we mentioned earlier. But looking at it coldly, despite all the drawbacks, the programme provided key victories during the war. They were successful at stalling the Covenant's rampage across human space. And that, friends, is where I'll end today's video.